When you think of a superhero, you probably picture someone in a cape, right? Or maybe some billionaire with high-tech gadgets and a fancy suit. But what if I told you that one of the greatest lifesavers in human history was just a quiet, regular blue-collar guy from Australia who spent his days working a normal job and hanging out with his family? He didn't have millions of dollars, he didn't run a massive company, but he had something inside of him that nobody else on the planet had. And because of it, he spent over 60 years pulling off a quiet rescue mission that saved more lives than almost any medical breakthrough in history. His name was James Harrison, and his story starts back in 1951 with a terrifying medical crisis. So imagine being 14 years old. You're just a normal kid, but suddenly you get really, really sick. James had to undergo a massive high-risk chest surgery to remove one of his lungs. It was a brutal procedure, and he was on the brink of death. To save his life, the doctors had to give him a massive amount of blood transfusions. We're talking 13 liters of blood. He spent 3 months in the hospital recovering. And while he was lying in that hospital bed, his dad sitting next to him explained what had happened. And his dad said, "James, the only reason that you're breathing right now is because total strangers, people you never will meet, willingly gave their own blood to keep you alive." That completely blew 14-year-old James's mind. He looked at his dad and made a solemn promise that day. He said, "The second I turn 18, when I can legally do it, I'm going to become a blood donor. I'm going to pay it back." Fast forward 4 years later, James turns 18. He walks into the local blood donation center, rolls up his sleeve, and fulfills the promise he made. He figures he'll just do a nice thing a few times a year, check off that box, and go home. But right around the exact same time, doctors in Australia were facing a devastating, heartbreaking mystery. Thousands of pregnant women across the country were mysteriously miscarrying, or their babies were being born with severe, fatal brain damage. Nobody knew why. It was terrifying, and parents were living in absolute fear. Eventually, scientists figured out the culprit. It was a condition called rhesus disease. Basically, if a pregnant mom has one blood type and her baby has a different one, the mom's immune system mistakenly sees that her baby is a threat. Her body starts creating antibodies to attack the baby's blood cells. It was a genetic tragedy, and doctors had zero way to stop it. But then researchers started testing blood samples from regular blood donors, looking for a miracle, a needle in the haystack. They stumbled across James Harrison's blood. When they put James's blood under a microscope, the scientists' jaws hit the floor. James's body naturally produced an incredibly rare, super powerful antibody that could completely neutralize this rhesus disease. If they could use his plasma to create a vaccine, they could stop a mother's body from attacking her unborn child. The doctors called James into the office. They explained how rare his blood was, looked him right in the eye, and asked him a huge question. "James, can we make a life-saving shot out of your blood plasma? But to make enough, we're going to need you to donate as often as humanly possible. Will you let us use your blood to build this vaccine?" Now, guys, James Harrison actually had a massive phobia of needles, of all things. He hated them. He couldn't even look at his own arm when the needle went in, but he did not hesitate. He said yes. For the next 60 years of his life, every single week, James walked into the blood bank. He sat in the same chair, looked away from the needle, and let them draw his plasma. He did this while working his normal job, through vacations, and through life's ups and downs. He never missed an appointment. Because he did this, scientists created a shot called anti-D. Every single dose of that vaccine made in Australia for decades came right from the plasma in James's right arm. Think about the whole scale of this. James ended up donating blood over 1,170 times. Unbelievable. I played around with some math, like my dad would love to do, to give you some perspective on how much blood this really is. So it's crazy when you break it down, but it amounts to about 450 2-liter bottles or 2,500 12-ounce cans. So what's the medical impact? Doctors estimate that James Harrison's blood directly saved the lives of over 2.4 million babies. 2,400,000 babies. In fact, one of the women who needed the shot was his own daughter, Tracy. Because James donated, his own grandson was born perfectly healthy. How rewarding, right? A few years ago, James turned 81 years old. In Australia, that's the strict age limit for blood donations to protect the donor's health. Why not 80? It's 81. Anyways, the medical staff told him it was time to retire. On his very last day in the donation chair, the hospital surprised him. They brought in dozens of parents holding healthy, laughing toddlers and babies, all of whom were only alive because of James's arm. They had balloons, gave him hugs, and cried as they thanked this quiet, elderly man who had spent his life saving theirs. And true to form, James was incredibly humble about the whole experience. He told reporters, "They say I'm a hero, but all I did was roll up my sleeve. It's just something I could do. It was my regular weekly routine." So let's take a deep breath together for just a second. Because when we look at a massive story like James's, or even when we look at the giant mountains of stress in our own daily lives, it's really easy to freeze up. We feel like we can't fix everything all at once. There's no point in trying, right? But James showed us a secret weapon that you and I can use starting today to clear out that stress and bring back some real hope. So this can fit right in with an actionable strategy that you can try out yourselves. Let's call it the micro promise. Think about it. James didn't save 2 million babies in one afternoon. He did it by making a tiny commitment, shrinking his focus down, and showing up just once a week. We can do the exact same things with our own mental health. Instead of trying to fix your entire life today, just make one tiny 5-minute promise to yourself. Anchor it to something you already do, like brewing your morning coffee or brushing your teeth. Maybe your micro promise is sitting still and taking 5 deep, slow breaths while your coffee pours. Maybe it's texting one friend a quick note of appreciation while you wait for your computer to boot up. Or maybe like James, it's just learning to look away from the needle, meaning when a part of your day feels overwhelming, just refuse to stare at the scary parts and focus completely on the good thing waiting for you on the other side. For stress reduction, you can do what I just mentioned. The 5 deep, slow breaths. Pretty simple, right? For mental positivity, maybe every evening when I plug my phone to charge it, I'll text someone a quick note of appreciation or give them a compliment. And for something like hope and growth, before you open social media in the morning, read exactly a couple pages of a book that inspires you. When you keep these tiny bite-sized promises to yourself, it actually starts to rewire your brain. The stress drops out, the trust in yourself goes up, and you start building this amazing, unstoppable momentum. So try this one out. I'm so grateful that you tuned into the show today. I started this micro podcast to serve 2 purposes. I was feeling beaten down by all the negativity I was surrounded by. I wanted to make a change, to feel better about myself and my thoughts. More positive, more hopeful. So why not bring you along on my journey? I'm no expert. I don't have a degree in psychology, but I really feel that by helping others while helping myself, it would be even more impactful and rewarding. It's only been a couple months and I'm already noticing encouraging results. And the feedback I'm getting from listeners is fuel to keep creating these for both of us. If you like this Briefly Good podcast, please be sure to follow. I hope these bite-sized episodes can quickly change your outlook and give you a nice reset from all the negativity surrounding us in the world. So here we are again, closing out another refreshing, hopeful episode. All that's left now is the Briefly Good quote of the week. The great artist Vincent van Gogh once wrote something that fits today's episode perfectly. He said, "Great things are done by a series of small things brought together." Come back next Tuesday for another episode, but until then, do something good, even if it's brief.